If you build it, they will come. Only former pro stock racer Don Beverly can confirm if he ever heard that whispered phrase, but he must have had some similar inspiration to have created the latest jewel in NHRA's treasure chest, Virginia Motorsports Park. The founding fathers of this year-old facility certainly were willing to go the distance and ease the pain of championship drag racing fans in the Mid-Atlantic. And now the Top Fuel Funny Car and Pro Stock Fields of Dreams have come to the Old Dominion State for the inaugural running of the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals. TNN Motorsports proudly presents live final round coverage of the NHRA Virginia is for Lovers Nationals. Never have so many had so much fun over 3 days at a brand new racetrack as we have here in Virginia. Hello everybody, I'm Steve Evans and I can speak for everybody here. We love this racetrack. Don Beverly and his investors have done a sensational job. And I can't think of a more interesting race than we've seen here today. I don't mean world record speeds or ETs, quite the contrary. The conditions have been a tremendous challenge to crew chiefs and drivers. If you win here, you have truly done something special. Now, why has it been so tricky? Bob Fry knows everything. Tell him, Bob.
Thanks, Steve. They ought to call this thing the Virginia is for Sun Lovers Nationals, because I'll tell you what, this baby's been hot, and you're going to do everything you can here to try to get in out of the heat and stay a little bit cool. Shade's not a bad idea. Over here in the Dean Scusa pit area, they decided to put up one of these big fans, and apparently it's been working pretty well for them. Cool is the order of the day. It's hot on the fans, it's hot on the racers, and it's hot on the racetrack. I think I'll sit down here, try to stay cool.
Well, Bob, we lost you there for a moment, and Steve, if it is hot outside, it's plenty cool in my booth here. While the heat may be on the racetrack here at the Virginia Motorsports Park in the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals 2 weeks ago at Raceway Park in Englishtown, New Jersey, the heat was with the racers. In Top Fuel, a new national record. Larry Dixon in qualifying rips off the best ever, 4.66 seconds, a new world record. That picked him up 50 grand of slick 50 bonus cash. In funny car competition, Al Hoffman and Kenji Okazaki met. Kenji went up in smoke. Al Hoffman in qualifying ran 2 consecutive 306-mile-an-hour runs for the records. Now in eliminations, it was Hoffman against John Force. This is not a battle, folks. This is a war, as it has been all season. This time, it was Hoffman winning, but Cruz Pedregon with the McDonald's Pontiac won it all as he defeated Dean Scusa. In the Top Fuel final, the Miller Genuine Draft car, Larry Dixon up against the American International Airways car of the Winston champion, Scott Coletta. A huge ball of fire, but Larry Dixon doesn't know how to lift. He won the race and extended his lead in the Winston points chase. He and the Snakes celebrated. Pro Stock Eliminator Butch Abbott got just a little bit out of shape, carried it maybe a bit too far. It bounced off the guardrail a couple of times, and his Bondo Oldsmobile Cutlass turned turtle and slid down the track. This, of course, at Englishtown 2 weeks ago. Butch Abbott uninjured and back in competition here. The final of Pro Stock saw Bob Glidden and his Ford against Jim Yates in the McDonald's Pontiac. The outcome, win number 85 for Bob Glidden in the Ford Quality Care Pro. The celebration continued. Live coverage of the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals is brought to you by Mopar and the Chrysler Corporation Parts and the Chrysler Plymouth Dodge Truck, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. Mopar and Chrysler Corporation Parts. Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. This Bud's for you. You stay with us. We'll be back live right here at Virginia Motorsports Park.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
At this stage of the 1995 season, John Force may be the answer to the Riddler's question, because lately a certain Mr. Pedregon, and a scene reminiscent of 1992, has been making life tough on the current Winston champion. And now that the Cape Crusader has adopted the Batman look, the 1995 championship chase may take on a darker cast. And despite the star power of the leading men, strong supporting roles are played by Al Hoffman and others.
It's the car, right? Chicks love the car.
That might be the best line in the movie. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Evans. We're back live in Virginia. The Virginia is for Lovers Nationals, and we didn't need a Hollywood script for funny car competition today. It had a flavor all its own. And one of the key races featured the Batbird in the second round, Cruz Pedregon up against Al Hoffman. Let's have a look. They were both fighting for the same thing, really. Number 2 in the Winston point standings and a shot at overtaking Force. But look at this. Batman was no help. A 5:35 for Al Hoffman put away Cruz Pedregon. So we mistakenly ran that race, but Big Mac, fix it, will you?
I'll do my best, Steve, as we take a look at what's been going on here today at Virginia Motorsports Park and this inaugural Virginia is for National, or for Lovers Nationals. What a show it has been in funny car competition. In round number 1, it was Chuck Etchells in the far lane up against Gary Dencham. Number 1 qualifier was Etchells. He logged a 5:15 to hold the top spot. Now you see why the problem set in. Etchells smoked the tires. Dencham went a 5:39, used a reaction time to win. On the ladder, Gary Dencham advanced over Chuck Etchells. Dean Scusa defeated Gary Clapshaw. It was Spurlock over Worsham, and Jack Wyatt moved ahead. Al Hoffman beat Tom Hoover, while Cruz Pedregon defeated Kenji Okazaki. John Force topped Gordy Bonnet. And in round number 2 racing, Dean Scusa and Gary Dencham had the opportunity to confront one another. Scusa had defeated Clapshaw, the winner down at Memphis in round number 1. And look at the Mac Tools Quick Shine 99 car shine. 5.40 at 271. Dencham falling off to a 5.94. Then it was Casey Spurlock and Jack Wyatt's turn to try their luck on the racetrack. Wyatt just left before the tree was ever activated. And Casey Spurlock with a fine 5.29 low ET of round number 2 at 273 miles an hour. Everybody having trouble getting a hold of the racetrack. Gary Bolger was the next opponent for John Force. And he put up a valiant fight to the halfway mark until John Force took the win at a 5.30 seconds at a speed
We're
at 200.
starting to figure this deal out. Even down course, it don't matter. Cruz was behind us and the points got knocked out, but Hoffman, I love you, but I think I've heard enough.
All right, let's go down to Steve.
Ooh, angry words from John Force. Let's talk about the first race in the semifinals of Funny Car. And that pitted KC Hollywood Spurlock up against Dean Scusa. Scusa, who made the final round just a couple of weeks ago. But not today. Spurlock spitting parts and oil. Struggles to a 5.45. KC, that was an expensive run to make the finals.
It really was, Steve. It wasn't pretty, but it got the job done. And we'd like to dedicate that win to everybody at Fruit of the Loom that's really stood behind us in a tough year. They gave us the money to do this. We'll spend the parts to get a win.
New motor, obviously.
Obviously a new motor. It hurt that one when I got back in it the second time, but I knew I was ahead of Dean, so I just kept my foot in it until I saw Flames or Dean, whichever happened first. Neither happened first, and we got the win light.
All right, now who is this man going to race in the final round? You'll like this. Bob Fry?
Well, it's a riddle, but we're going to give you the answer. In the other semifinal, it was Al Hoffman in the Western Auto Slick 50 car in the near lane, and John Force over on the far side of the racetrack. Force trying to maintain his lead in the Winston points battle. Hoffman in the near lane, a lot of tire smoke, and the guy that drove out of it, hey, John Force goes out and winds up getting the win. So it'll be John Force into that final round, and John, you got a great win there in the semis, and all you got to do to take the championship is take out that kid from Hollywood.
Yeah, it was tough. Well, Cruz went out, and then Hoffman, we took him out. But Hollywood's a whole nother dance, so we're going to go out there, and it's a pedal race. The heat's still out here. I wish to God it would cool down, but I don't think it's going to.
if it's going to be a driver's race, you think you have the edge over Spurlock?
No, Spurlock's a heck of a driver, too, and he's got Ronnie Swearinger, who's a good tuner, and my guys can match him. And so, hey, we're going to dance. It's anybody's ball game, but we're definitely leaving this great state with a points lead.
John Force not only leads the league in points, he leads the league in cliches as well. We're going to dance and all that other kind of stuff, but it's Force, and it's going to be John Force and Casey Hollywood Spurlock in the finals. Steve?
Bob, I'll tell you what, let's do a take two on that Pedregon-Hoffman race that I ballyhooed so much. Here it is. It was Pedregon in the Batbird, Hoffman the Western Auto car. As I said before, both fighting for the same thing, points to stay pace with John Force. A good lead by both drivers, a good race, smoking the tires at the far end. The driver's doing a great job, but it was Hoffman beating Pedregon, and Cruz, well, he took it pretty well. Riddle me this, riddle me that. Drop cylinders hurt the bat, Cruz.
Yeah, we got our wings clipped out here, but, you know, we've raced Hoffman an awful lot. I think we've beat him all the times we've raced him this year. He's a great guy, great team, great sponsor, but just wasn't our day. But we ran awful good here, very consistent, but evidently we have not dropped cylinders in a long time, so evidently it finally caught up to us.
Now you need Force to go out.
Yeah, well, I think Hoffman's been doing good at that, so maybe Hoffman can take the boy out. Thanks.
Okay, am I into this Batman thing or what? I'll try to lose it. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll have pro stock action from the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals. Stay with us right here in Virginia. If Gotham City could spare the dynamic duo, they should make their way to Fairfield, Illinois to help out drag racing's dynamic duo, the Dodge Boys, Darrell Alderman and Scott Jeffrey on. Late last month, their entire supply of engines for the Wayne County Avengers were destroyed by vandals. And with the dominating Dodges out of commission, the pro stock world is turned upside down and wide open, with everyone from a dark horse to an old war horse showing winning form. We are back live here in Virginia. We have shifted our focus over to the pro stock pits, and with good reason. It has been a brilliant show as well. They're not slipping and sliding and fighting for traction quite as bad as the funny cars, but still, it's real tough. And here is one of my personal picks for race of the day. It came in round number 2. Jim Yates, the McDonald's Pontiac, up against Troy Coughlin from the Racing Dynasty out of Columbus, Ohio. And Coughlin gets a huge hole shot. Yates, who was in the final in Englishtown 2 weeks ago, was in big trouble, but he had enough horsepower to pull it out. A 7:10 for Jim Yates sent him to the semifinal round. You tell me, is a 7:10 good?
7:10's pretty good for this heat out here, I think. It's awful good. I tell you, we've been working on this thing awful hard, and the crew back there has been working on it, and it's running pretty good right now. We just got to keep it up.
And cut some lights, maybe.
Well, I tell you, it's just getting tougher and tougher out there. I think we're concentrating a lot more on the car and a little less on driving. How bad was that one?
He was out on you a bit, about 500.
That's too much to let him go. I don't think that'll happen again. At least I hope not. If I'm going to win this thing, I can't have that happening.
No, it says right in the rule book. Drivers are so sensitive about their reaction times, aren't they? All right, here's the rest of the pro stock recap with Dave McClellan.
And Steve, reaction times is what has been the dominant feature in pro stock racing here. We've seen a huge number of upsets. It was round number 1, Steve Schmidt, the quicker qualified car in the near lane by a bunch. Got a hole shot put on him by Joe Lafone Jr., and it was Joe that won the race with an elapsed time of a 7:12, 7:11, the losing time. Then it was Mark Ingersoll's turn to strap it to George Marnell. The Marnell and Kaidos mobile was in the near lane. Ingersoll driving for Troy Humphreys in the Winnebago Cutlass in the far lane. This was a giant hole shot. How big? Well, Marnell lost with a 7:11. You see the times. Buddy Ingersoll won it at a 7:17. The other racers to advance, Ray Franks defeated Mark Powick, and Warren Johnson, the top qualifier, defeated Danny Kaufman. The other side of the ladder, the bottom half of the field, you'd already seen Jim Yates take the win. Mark Osborne defeated Jerry Ekman, and Kurt Johnson topped Larry Morgan. And, of course, Bob Glidden was trying to make it 2 in a row. A big win streak of 1 for Glidden when he won the number 85 victory up in Englishtown 2 weeks ago, but in this case it was not to be. Troy Coughlin defeating Glidden. Coughlin running a 7:13, Glidden running a 7:12. Have no doubt it was hole shot time and reaction time advantage that won it again. Next race, Mark Osborne and Kurt Johnson, round number 2 of Pro Stock at the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals. Advantage off the starting line, very little, only 0.02 of a second. This was pure horsepower as Kurt Johnson outdistanced the Mama Rosa Pizza Pie Royal car, 7:09, the winning time. Then it was Dad's turn. Warren Johnson, from his number 1 qualifying spot, had been in the 7.0s all through qualifying and eliminations to this point. His opponent, Ray Franks, at the wheel of the Haas and Franks Oldsmobile Cutlass. And again, WJ, low ET of the round, 7:06. Losing time for Franks, a 7:14. Here we see Joe LeBone Jr., round number 2, up against Buddy Ingersoll. LeBone and Ingersoll close to the finish line. The win went to Joe, a 7:18. He advanced into the semifinal round of competition. The final 4 very closely matched. It was LeBone and Johnson. Just creeping into the staging beams. They left practically together. WJ, for one of the rare occurrences, had gotten a big advantage, and he used it. Here's another 7:07 at 195. The other side of the ladder would set the final round opponent for Warren Johnson. His son Kurt was up against Jim Yates, who's trying to make 2 finals in a row. And it was handed to him on a silver platter. Kurt Johnson redlighting the McDonald's car out of Joe Gibbs Racing into the finals. Yates elapsed time of 7:10. The lane choice will go to Warren Johnson. Here's Steve.
And David, in the Warren Johnson pits, as usual, no thrash. They just finished waxing the car. A clean car might go quicker. They put 1.5 gallons of gas in it. They're ready to go. What about the other finalists, Bob Fry?
The other finalist has a bone to pick with you there, Steve. They said at the beginning of the day, you said it's Warren Johnson and nobody else. Well, don't tell that to Jim Yates and the Pontiac. And you want to see how these folks are thrashing, getting ready for the final round? They're watching the show live on TNN over in the McDonald's hospitality tent. Hey, it's a cushy job that they have. Jim Yates hopes to win his 2nd final round, and he'd like to do it right here, and he'd like to say, na-na-na-na-na to you, Steve.
Train me. Let me be your partner.
Who's your tailor?
Batman may have Robin, but in drag racing, the boy wonder is Don Prudhomme's protege, Larry Dixon. In just 6 short months, this fuel phenom has notched 3 national event wins and lowered the elapsed time record to a stunning 4.66. Quite a rocket ride for a rookie. Stop the Kid is quickly becoming the motto of the entire dragster division, because historically, early June kicks off the drive to the Winston title, and if Dixon isn't caught, there won't be a championship battle to be fought. All right, as you can tell, we're back again live here on TNN. Interesting, they chose that to lead this segment. Let me show you a race that happened in round number 1. And I show it to you because at the end of the season, we may be talking about it. It was Larry Dixon, low qualifier, world record holder, points leader, up against Connie Coletta that barely got in the show. Coletta matched reaction times with him, and the old veteran got more traction at a 5:01. I talked to Larry, I'm sorry. Win, 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 lose. A little tough.
Yeah, you know, it's one of them deals. You know, like Snake says, you can never bet on a drag race, and it's just one I'm learning fast.
Went out there, smoked the tires, you tried to stay with it.
Yeah, I didn't see Connie, and I felt it strike the tires loose, and I didn't see him, so I just legged it on down there, and about the last 200 feet, he drove around me, and one of them things.
Okay, I told you that was an important race. Here's Dave McClellan with a few more. Mac, Top Fuel coming your way. Here's the recap.
Steve, it was quite a show in Top Fuel. Here was the way they qualified. Larry Dixon, number 1, defeated Connie Coletta. You see Shelly Anderson advancing, Corey Mack, and Michael Brotherton defeating Ronnie Capps into round number 2. Blaine Johnson topped the troubled Joe Amato. Eddie Hill got the win over a tire-smoking Bernstein, and Rance McDaniel defeated a broken Pat Dakin. In round number 1, Scott Coletta, the reigning Winston champ, was up against Tommy Johnson Jr. The Mopar car in the near lane having lots of problems. Scott Coletta went through for the victory with 4.80 seconds at over 301 miles an hour, the quickest and fastest of eliminations thus far. In round number 2 racing, It was Scott Coletta and Rance McDaniel. McDaniel smoked the tires in the Peak Brothers layback car. The American International Airways car flew, if you will, as Scott advancing into the semis with a 491 at 286. Eddie Hill, the misfortunes continue. He broke on his burnout, was unable to make the run. He was to face the number 2 qualifier, Blaine Johnson. Johnson in the Travers Tool Company car laid down a single. There was not a picture-perfect run, but on the heat of the day, who's going to argue with a 5:02? Then the upset winner out of round number 1, Connie Coletta, who had beaten Larry Dixon, the top qualifier, was against Shelly Anderson. You see the raw fuel that came out of the pipe on Connie's car. That wasn't all. It was a ball of fire and lots of oil as Shelly Anderson won it at a subpar 5:12, but it was Shelly into the semifinals. Still in round number 2, this was Corey McLenathan and Michael Brotherton. The LDDS car of Brotherton up in smoke. Corey Mack was smoking the tires, but it was getting the win light at the end of the racetrack with a 5:04. So that set up our final 4, the semifinal round of what had been a very tough top fuel race. Shelly Anderson, her Western Auto Haviland car, blazed the tires. Corey Mack ran his way into the finals with a fine 496 at 281. That set up the race between Blaine Johnson and Scott Coletta. The reigning Winston champ had the quick time of eliminations at 4.80, and Scott Coletta smoked the tires, so it was Blaine Johnson into the finals. Here again, Steve Evans.
Well, David, if you can hear me, you know there's nothing wrong with the Corey McLenathan car. Lee Beard just fired it up to make sure there's no leak. He says, same engine, same tricky racetrack. Bob Fry?
What a racket over there. Meanwhile, all is quiet here in preparation in the Blaine Johnson pit area. Just wanted to give you a little historical note. 1989, Corey McLenathan won his first top fuel title. He did it at the Mile Highs out in Denver, Colorado. The guy that he beat was Blaine Johnson. So Blaine Johnson would certainly love to come out and win his first ever top fuel title by turning the tables on Corey McLenathan. Now, the team has not been dynamite today, admittedly. 496, 502, and 502. But Alan Johnson told me in the opening round they took a little power out, softened it up in the second one, killed some mosquitoes in the third one. That's exactly how he defined it. They didn't suffer any real terminal damage in that semi-final round. They did a little between-round maintenance, just some routine stuff, and they're very strong that they're going to be able, very good possibility that they're going to be able to run well in the finals. However, what we said at the top of the show is still a factor. It is awfully hot out there, and the track is going to be not in great condition. Both drivers will be faced with the same problems. And again, 2 guys coming out of the alcohol ranks going to find out who's the better driver in this one. But Blaine Johnson, remember, it's back in 1989. He'd like to get back on Corey Mack. Dave?
Well, as our crowd is awaiting the final rounds here live on TNN, we are proud to present the Mopar High Performer Award to Blaine Johnson. He's got the track record here, the first man ever over 300 miles an hour at 304.36 miles an hour. Congrats to Blaine. TNN's live coverage of the Virginias for Lovers Nationals is brought to you in part by Pep Boys Automotive Super Center. Stay with us. The finals coming up next. Promotional consideration has been provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
Everybody walked away, and they walked away for is the greatest tape in the Diamond P collection. Why not call the number on your screen right now and enjoy the best in this great selling series? Steve Evans does a tremendous job of commentating some of the magnificent accidents and crashes and flips, and all the drivers survive the odds and walk away. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 were great tapes. Add this one to your collection right now. Call the number on your screen and order from Diamond P. Order, and they walked away for. Dave?
All right, on the racetrack, you hear the sounds of the burnouts of the alcohol funny cars. This is the final round. The championship of this inaugural Virginia is for Lovers Nationals is at stake. And here's the reigning Winston champ. This is Randy Anderson at the wheel of the Western Auto Haviland car. Alongside of him, Bob Newberry. number 2 in the Winston Chase, right behind Randy last year. As we set this race up, let's take a look back and see how they qualified. Bob Newberry came out of the number 7 qualifying position, defeating Scott Weiss in the first round. In round number 2, it was Tony Bartone that felt the sting of Newberry, and in the semis, Frank Manzo fell to the flying Bob. On the other side of the ladder, Randy Anderson had a tough time of it indeed. He ran 6:08 in the first round, defeating Chris Gleason, while it was Anderson over Peyton in the second round, and then in a real battle, he beat Pat Austin, the top qualifier. Bob, this is a race to dream about.
Yeah, it really is. And if the top fuel guys are happy that somebody took Larry Dixon out, think how the alcohol guys feel somebody getting Frank Manzo out. This is a dynamite battle. Randy Anderson needs to win this one if he wants to keep in title contention.
And of course, somebody took out the top qualifier, Pat Austin, who had been on quite a streak as well, as he fell to Randy Anderson in the semifinal round. Let's watch. It is all Bob Newberry. 589 at 238 miles an hour, a 594 for Randy Anderson at 239. Newberry had the best of both worlds, was able to get a reaction time advantage at the starting line, and ran about a tenth of a second better, not quite that much, but a substantial margin of victory at the finish line as Bob Newberry in the Key Auto Parts Oldsmobile Achieva takes the win in Alcohol Funny Car and becomes the first ever Virginia is for Lovers Alcohol Funny Car champion. Here now, the final pair in Top Alcohol Dragster. It is Jay Payne, affectionately dubbed by those who know and love him as the Thunder Slug. His opponent is Richard Boyd, and believe it or not, if you follow this competition in Top Alcohol Dragster, Boyd has got to be considered the favorite. He ran much quicker in qualifying, has had some great elapsed times throughout the day, and had a bye run in the semifinals. That kind of helped him out just a little bit. Bob, these two guys battle it out all the time, and Jay Payne has really got a lead in the Winston Chase.
One of the very few guys to beat Jay Payne this year has been Richard Boyd in the Exide Batteries machine. It's the Clavelli, Feinberg, and Boyd car. He beat him at Cecil County in the Winston Drag Racing Series event, the first one in Division I. One of the very few divisional races Jay has lost. Richard Boyd did it on the starting line with a hole shot, ran a great 584. If he can put that kind of number up right here, he might take out the old slug.
Well, you may have recognized her from the back. That was Shelly Anderson, Jay Payne's significant other, and she helps him every chance she gets when she's not racing her own Top Fuel Dragster. Tremendous run as Jay Payne pulls it out when he needs it. How about that? 577 at 241 miles an hour. Richard Boyd slowed just a bit, but still a great run. 581 at 224, and it was Boyd's car having a little bit of problem at the finish line. Look at this. This is Pro Stock Motorcycle. The finals will be coming up when we return. David Schultz against Steve Johnson. You couldn't ask for better racing than you're going to see in just a moment. Don't go away. TNN's coverage of the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals is brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge Truck, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. Well, joining me in the booth is former Winston champ John Myers, one of the best pro stock motorcycle racers of all time. John, a pleasure to have you here. Great race in the final. Dave Schultz against Steve Johnson.
It won't get any better than this. You know, Steve outran me in the semis, and, you know, he had a real good run, and he earned his way into the final. He beat me with on the light and on performance. So,
well, he is a teammate of yours this season, so at least you guys at Star Racing have got one motorcycle in the finals, but you have to take on the toughest guy in the field, David Schultz, on the Sunoco Suzuki.
He is my teammate, and we're on the starting line together. We're mortal enemies, but right now I'm on his team.
So David Schultz had the choice of lanes. He is in the far side of the track, in the near lane nearest our camera. The eloquent one, Steve Johnson. That's a close drag lovers race, and the win goes to David Schultz. A 7:59 to a 7:61. John, he had nearly a perfect light. He did everything right.
Yeah, Steve had a really good light, too. It was just a great drag race. Sometimes that's the way the chips fall.
Well, you guys have really looked strong this race. Our congratulations and thanks for stopping by. Let's go down to Bob Fry.
Folks, I would like to introduce you to the new Winston points leader, Jim Yates.
I tell you, it feels pretty good from sitting in here. Hopefully we get past Warren here, get us some more points.
Certainly hope so. Hey, it's the Virginia's for Lovers race, and hey, after all, he is from Virginia. The other finalist here is going to be WJ, Warren Johnson here. And W, it's been a while since we've had you going into the championship round. How you feeling?
Just fine.
You're not nervous. I mean, it's not like you're a rookie at this or anything.
I think I've been here a few times before.
Warren's got that supreme look of confidence in his eyes. This is going to be a great drag race coming up. WJ hasn't won yet this year. Jim Yates been in 3 finals. Can he win his first here? Stand by.
From the Chesapeake in the east to the Blue Ridge Highlands in the west, Virginia is blessed with a wealth of natural beauty. Within her borders were many of the early colonies, each leaving a rich legacy of uniquely American architecture. The Old Dominion also has an unparalleled depth of American heritage. A trip through Virginia is indeed a journey to the past. Nowhere is that more evident than here in Petersburg National Park, the site of one of the Civil War's fiercest battles. And today, the combat continues on the quarter mile of nearby Virginia Motorsports Park.
As Jim Yates and Warren Johnson get ready for the Pro Stock Final, let me introduce to you to my special guest. He is not only a great Pro Stock champion, having won national events before, he is also a co-owner here at Virginia Motorsports Park, Mr. Don Beverly. An absolutely gorgeous racetrack.
Thank you, Mac. Really appreciate that.
You guys have worked very hard to make a facility that is very friendly to racers. And for Warren Johnson and Jim Yates, what are they going to be confronting here in the heat of the day?
Well, I'll tell you what, Mac, I think the lanes right now are pretty equal. I think that Warren's going to probably go in the right lane, and it's going to be a great race. I think that Warren, I drove here for 2 years, and this should be a great race for him. If he doesn't win, it's his fault.
Well, you not only involved in drag racing here at Virginia Motorsports Park, you got your own Roundy Round team in NASCAR.
Not a question, and he did a great job yesterday up in Dover.
All right, Tony Yates with a hat on the hood saying, come on, Jim. Get a good reaction time. Jim Yates is going for his second final round appearance and a win that would really solidify a lead in the Winston chase. This is the case where the best car all weekend continues to be just that. A 7:06 at 196 miles an hour. Warren Johnson had the reaction time advantage by 0.03 of a second, so Tony's beating on the hood didn't do much good for Jim.
Congratulations to Warren. This is the first one this year, and I'm glad it came in our park.
Do we get to see you back in Pro Stock sometime soon?
I sure hope so. I tell you that. It would be great for me.
All right, you've sat inside the cockpit of one of these cars when you leave right here. Is there anything at all Jim Yates can do?
Pray. I think you can pray at that point because you can see another car beside over there on the other side that's ahead of you. At that point, the throttle's already open. What are you going to do next?
You're going to hope something goes wrong on Warren Johnson, and it did not. A full car length win for WJ. Steve?
Contrary to Jim Yates, I stand on my earlier statement. Nobody was close to Warren Johnson this weekend. Tremendous job off the starting line, first to the finish line.
Well, Jim's awful good on the tree, so I knew I had to do my job there. Greg's been doing a great job on his race car all weekend long. I believe we've been in the 7.0s all weekend long. I don't know what his last run was, but it felt pretty good.
It doesn't matter. It was a 7.06 for the record. Dave McClellan?
Well, the win for Warren Johnson moved him up to number 2 in the chase. With the absence of the Dodges, they moved down. Jim Yates, the leader. Mark Powick in 4th. Alderman and Jeffrey on 3rd and 5th, respectively. Let's go back to the starting line. Here again, Bob Fry.
Top Fuel finalists are getting set to go, David, after a dynamite run there in Pro Stock. WJ getting the win. Over my left shoulder here, they're stuffing Blaine Johnson into the car. They're really, really pressed for time to try to get them on. And over to my right shoulder, it's Corey Mack. Mickey D's looking to win another one here in Top Fuel. So it's Top Fuel finals coming up. It should be a tremendous drag race.
Welcome back to Virginia Motorsports Park, just south of Richmond, and the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals. Top Fuel sitting on the pad, getting ready to go. Joining us once again, our good pal Ed McCulloch. As a former Top Fuel racer, what's going through your mind and stomach at this moment?
Well, sitting up there waiting for this final round, there's a lot of anxious moments there. They know the racetrack's tricky. They're wanting to get out there and get this over with.
All right, Blaine Johnson and Corey McClenathan. I can't think of a better matchup because Blaine qualified number 2, but Corey Mack pretty much been the class of eliminations and able to control the power, maybe a little bit better than anybody else.
Well, they certainly have. Lee Beard with Corey Mack over there. The McDonald's car has been very good all day, very consistent, and like, you know, we've talked about Lee Beard a lot earlier. He's very good on these racetracks, and I don't look to see that McDonald's car make a mistake.
Well, the heat of the day is definitely presenting difficulties for all of our racers. Bob Fry's been down on the starting line. The racetrack itself appears to be pretty good, Robert.
Yeah, it really does. Blaine Johnson really seemed pumped up in that race car and everything. He is a great driver. He whooped a lot of these guys in the alcohol class. Nobody's won a Top Fuel final right here. Blaine, Allen, and Everett are really pumped, and I agree that if Corey Mack makes a mistake here, Blaine Johnson's going to get his first win.
Well, McDonald's trying again for another victory, this time with Corey McClenathan. That is Alan Johnson. He and Blaine and their dad Everett, along with Travers Tool Company and Roger Dyer, forming a rather formidable team. Blaine 4 times was a Winston champion consecutively as an alcohol dragster driver. Of course, Corey McClenathan coming up out of the alcohol ranks, kind of a training ground, if you will, Ace.
You might say that, Mac, but over in the Blaine Johnson, him and his brother Alan, there's a lot of talent right there in that team, and that's a win looking to happen right there in the lane nearest us.
Well, I don't know whether Blaine's pumped up, but Alan certainly is. As the crew walks away, it's all up to the driver now. Who's going to be the champ? Great drag race, it is Corey McClenathan. Had the advantage at the starting line by 0.04 of a second. He runs 4.96, 4.98, the losing time for Blaine Johnson. And Corey Mack takes the win for Joe Gibbs and the McDonald's racing team. That is an impressive assortment and group of drivers.
That was a great job by Corey there. He had been struggling all day with his reaction times, but he was geared up and ready for that, and he did a great job.
Look at this. This is a really good race, and nobody smoked the tires bad. That's what I love to see.
Well, that's a perfect final for us here in Top Fuel at this new racetrack in Virginia. It's a great drag race.
You can see the margin of victory at the finish line. Just a little over 50 thousandths of a second. That is 1 car length exactly. Corey McClenathan is the winner. He's coming out of his helmet, and Steve Evans is standing by.
And everywhere in Southern California, they're dancing on the tables and ordering another round. Corey Mack has done it again.
How about this burger car, huh?
How about that drag race?
It was a good drag race. I could hear him all the way down there. I knew he'd be on time to the starting line. Just one of those things, man. I have to thank Joe Gibbs, Interstate Batteries, Shell Oil, EDS, Champion Spark Plugs, all the above. Thank you for everything. Thanks.
And thank you for a great day of racing. Mac, how the points look now? He may have the lead.
Well, let's see what happens. You're right. Corey McClenathan in the lead over Larry Dixon by 2 points. Scott Coletta third, Mike Dunn fourth, and Blaine Johnson with his final round appearance jumps up to the number 5 spot after 8 of 19 events. TNN's live coverage of this, the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals, is brought to you by Allied Signals Fram Filters. You can pay a little now or a lot later. Top Fuel and is over. Funny car coming up next. TNN's live coverage of the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals is brought to you by All Pro Bumper to Bumper, the auto parts specialist. Now, down to the starting line. Let's find out what's happening in Funny Car. Here's Bob.
Well, there was a big round of applause that just came up as the second funny car finally came into view. John Force on the far side of the racetrack. Ronnie Swearingen and the Fruit of the Loom guys. Hollywood looks like he's pretty pumped in there.
Yeah, he is. He's been doing a great job of driving today. This is obviously a driver's race today. He's been cutting some lights when we need them. He's been pedaling it when we need it, and we've just kind of been there today.
It's been a while for you guys in the winner's circle. This would be nice, huh?
Yeah, it's been a long struggle. And while I'm here, I just want to say thanks to Bill Farley, owner of Fruit of the Loom, for sticking in there with us, and Rick Davis and all the guys back there at home. We're going to try and get it for you guys.
It was interesting. I asked him about lane choice. I said, is this lane going to be any different? He said, I don't know. I haven't been here all day long. Should be interesting. Dave?
Well, out on the racetrack, a little bit of oil being cleaned up very quickly by the NHRA Safety Safari. One man that certainly knows the talents of KC Hollywood Spurlock and Ronnie Swearingen is our special guest for Funny Car. We're talking about the driver of the Matco Tools Quickshine 99 Pontiac, Dean Scusa. Dean, you felt the sting of that Fruit of the Loom car in the semifinals when Spurlock had a 5:48 victory. The best you can run was a 5:54. Tough day out there.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough racetrack. It's a lot of tribute to these crew chiefs that are getting these cars on the track, and I think that Fruit of the Loom team everyone's just waiting to see if they can put it together, and I think they're going to do it today.
All right, let's go down to Steve.
Well, guys, this has to be the picture of frustration. What does a man have to do to win a race? You lose another final by 200th.
Hey, well, at least this time we made a good drag race out of it. Gainesville wasn't quite as close, but, the team, we turned the car around every round. I'm really proud of them. We made a good showing for ourselves this weekend. The car's running fast, and we can't wait to go to the next race.
A lot of guys that had a bunch of runners-up before a big win, like John Forrest, once they got that win, they didn't stop, and I think that's going to happen to you.
Oh, the same way in alcohol. It took us probably about 10 years before we got our first win, but I don't think it's going to take so long this time.
I think it'll happen this year, Dave McClellan.
I would not be at all surprised, Steve Evans, as he is one tough driver and got a great race car with that Travers Tool Company car. Out on the racetrack, the cleanup is continuing. We're going to have the Funny Car final between KC Spurlock and John Force right here at the Virginia Motorsports Park. Don't you even think about going away. TNN's live coverage of the Virginia is for Lovers Nationals, brought to you by Mopar, Chrysler Corporation Parts, and the Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge Truck, Jeep, and Eagle dealers who sell and install them. Well, out on the racetrack, it is no race car at the moment. It is the NHRA Winston Safety Safari. They do such a superb job. You're looking at one of the more unique devices ever created to clean up a racetrack. It was originally designed to dry a wet racetrack. But as a result of utilizing that jet track dryer, they found that it could also be pressed into service to clean a racetrack after some oil. It appears that the oil may well have been in the Blaine Johnson lane, but we are just seeing the conclusion of the cleanup and some traction compound going on. Let's go down to where all the action is. Here's Bob.
Now there's a look at John Force, and a picture really is worth 1,000 words. He is on the lane farthest from the cameras. And Austin Coyle, I guess, as you look a little placid right here, it's rather see him cleaning up over in there than on your side of the track, huh?
Well, that usually doesn't make much difference. The Safety Safari does such a job, sometimes it's better when they get done cleaning it than it was to start with. Our only worries here are the other end of the racetrack, and that's pretty equal on both sides.
Austin, it's been a pretty good old drag race. A lot of folks said at the start of the day it would be a driver's race because of the weather conditions, and you got a pretty good old driver there.
Well, I believe it is a driver's race, and I believe we got the best.
Thanks a lot, Austin Coyle. And John Forrest in the finals. He gets set to duke it out with Hollywood Spurlock. Been a long, long while since that Fruit of the Loom car's been in the finals and won one. Hey, all they got to do to pick up their first in a while is beat John Forrest. Dave?
Bob, in the booth with me is Dean Scusa. We met him just a little bit earlier. Dean, you have been in this position that KC Spurlock is in right now, coming up in a final round to race John Forrest. Do you need anything to psych you up, or are you already over the edge?
I think what you really have to do is just reach in and psych yourself up the most you can. I mean, that's what going against Forrest, I mean, he is the best, and you just have to be on your game.
Is there any way that you can instill even better performance out of yourself? Really, the performance of your race car is up to your crew chief. Now it's up to you as the driver to not only get it off the starting line on time, but to make as smooth a run as possible.
That's right. I mean, this racetrack especially, because it's tricky out there. You got to get off the line on time, and then you have to get it down the track. So there's a few things you have to think about.
The engine's coming to life for John Forrest in the Castrol Pontiac Formula Firebird. Alongside of him is the guy that has taken on the chore of having the longest burnouts in drag racing now. KC Spurlock, he's wheeling the Fruit of the Loom Dodge Avenger. Let's watch and see how far KC carries his burnout. Used to be that John Forrest was regarded as the best burnout man in the business. I must admit, Casey Spurlock's taking that over. I don't know that it does much good to get those Goodyear tires that hot, does it, Dean?
You know, I don't know really what they're doing there, but I mean, the crowd loves it, and that's great. I mean,
it's showbiz, right?
That's right.
Let's go down to Bob.
At the very start of the day today, on our first hour live, one of the things we talked about in Funny Car was the burnout by Casey Hollywood Spurlock. He has been unrelenting all day long, went down about 1,000 feet. John Force followed and went down only about half that distance. Ironically, it has not hurt Spurlock all day long. The big burnouts, the heat, everything we talked about at the top of the show, I'm not sure they've helped him. They certainly haven't hurt him here today, Dave.
No, they have not, because Spurlock in eliminations had a 5:29 in round number 2, and that certainly is quite quick until you look at John Force. And in the semifinals, when he beat Al Hoffman, as we showed you just a little bit earlier, he ran a fine 5:25. A very respectable time considering the heat and the track conditions, Dean Scusa.
I think that's like running a 4 anywhere else. I mean, this track is so tricky. That is a great time here.
So now it is concentration time. The drivers literally are in the cocoon of that race car by themselves. There's nothing else. They can't rely on anybody, just themselves.
This is crunch time. I mean, this is what you worked all day for.
Austin Goyle has him in position, and A-OK, he walks away, and this is what we mean. John Force have it. Low elapsed time of eliminations, a 5:19 at 278 miles an hour. With smoke coming off the tires, John Force wins the inaugural Virginia is for Lovers Nationals at 5:19, 270. A drop cylinder for Casey Spurlock. It happened right off the line, Dean Scusa.
Yeah, you can see that raw fuel pouring out of the left side of the motor there, and that you can just see the distance right there. Force is just driving right away from him.
John Force is trying to win 5 Winston championships. If he can clinch it this year, that would be his 5th. An incredible accomplishment, and the crew begins the celebration at the starting line that I am sure is continuing as we speak after that replay. Steve?
Well, I'll tell you what, John Force fighting to get his helmet off. He's exhausted. He's worked very hard all day in this heat. And, John, it was like you had a target right in the middle of your forehead all day. They all wanted a shot.
Hey, it's been all day, but they tell me the nightmare's over, but kiddies, it ain't. As long as you got Coyle and Bernie Federle and a Pontiac and Castrol and all them people that pay. Big Duck on the block here won. What can I say? Fram Autolite, we done our job. Cruz is still stuck to that ceiling, Batman. That's why I love him. God damn.
Dave McClellan, he's got to be leading the points.
Well, let me tell you, John Force has got a substantial lead over Al Hoffman. Cruz Pedregon's in 3rd. Then Dean Scusa, our guest, is 4th, and Chuck Etchells is number 5. Well, for Ed, John, Don, Dean, Steve Evans, Bob Fry, I'm Dave McClellan. This has been quite a weekend indeed here at Virginia Motorsports Park. This has been a production of Diamond V Sports and the Nashville Network, leaders in live motorsports.